I'm a marked man in Congress. I'm a canceled man in some corners of the internet.
We keep hearing about Rep. Matt Gaetz and all the controversy surrounding him. And some people, even Matt Gaetz himself, is calling it Gaetzgate. The story is evolving, it's salacious, and it's taken on many different forms. So here's what you need to know. The accusations that Matt Gaetz faces are twofold. One is having sex with a minor, specifically a 17-year-old when he was a congressman. The second was violating the Mann Act, which prohibits transporting others across state lines for purposes of engaging in prostitution. Some other reporting indicates that the federal government is looking into whether Gaetz essentially engaged in a pay-to-play scheme concerning medical marijuana. Gaetz has early and often and vehemently denied these allegations.
Tell us what the truth is from your perspective.
It is a horrible allegation, and it is a lie.
So far, his story hasn't changed.
The truth will prevail.
The major player in Matt Gaetz' saga outside of Matt Gaetz is JOEL GREENBERG. Joel Greenberg was a friend of Matt Gaetz, and they were both these young, up-and-coming, young Turk, MAGA conservatives, fiercely loyal to Donald Trump. According to the people we've spoken to, friends of both men, it was Joel Greenberg who would meet these young women on the Seeking Arrangement website. All indications is that Joel Greenberg has been steadily leaking information to various media sources implicating Matt Gaetz in these two main crimes.
The smears against me range from distortions of my personal life to wild, and I mean wild, conspiracy theories.
The way Matt Gaetz has responded to these allegations is he's been kind of very clear and forceful in his denials.
I won't be intimidated by a lying media, and I won't be extorted by former DOJ officials and the crooks he is working with.
You know, it's considered common sense that if you're accused of something so seriously, you should shut up and you should have your attorneys speak for you.
I'm built for the battle, and I'm not going anywhere.
In Gaetz' case, he believes that having attorneys speak for you make you look kind of guilty. If you're hiding, you look like you have something to hide. The America First Tour is sort of Matt Gaetz' comeback party, so to speak, or his comeback announcement. He's going to be traveling the country, he announced, with another very controversial member of the Republican caucus in the U.S. House, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the so-called QAnon congresswoman.
I might be a wanted man by the deep state, but I am a Florida man, and it is good to be home.
Despite the amount of attention and the seriousness of the allegations facing Matt Gaetz, you haven't seen Republicans eager to take him on or call on him to resign.
Matt Gaetz is the same as any American. He's innocent until proven guilty. There's no charges against him yet. If a charge comes forward, that would be dealt with.
On the Democratic side, not that much of a surprise in that there are calls for him to be stripped of his committee assignments.
If in fact these allegations are true, of course, being removed from the Judiciary Committee is the least that could be done.
It's a legitimate question to ask, like, what's the future of Matt Gaetz? It's probably safe to say that Matt Gaetz, should he stay in the U.S. House, should he stay in his seat, should he run for re-election, he so far is, that he's probably going to hang on to his seat. Because one of the things we're seeing in the Republican Party increasingly is that a cornerstone of the belief system is that if the New York Times attacks you, well, that means you're probably on the right side of things, that you're actually a threat to liberalism, and that you are therefore good for conservatism. There is a future for Matt Gaetz, both in media and in politics, assuming he doesn't get charged. One important thing to understand is that the federal government likes to have a very good conviction rate. The Department of Justice wants to make sure that the people they charge get convicted. So all I see is barely the tip of the iceberg. Who knows what's under the sea there as far as what the federal government is looking at. So stay tuned. Understand there's usually about 5 years for the federal government to wrap up an investigation. That's a lot of time. So we could be playing the speculation game for quite a number of years.